I didn't go to school that much. You know, we worked a skating rink when I was growing up. My dad didn't believe too much in going to school. So, but the few times I did go to school, that's when I started realizing, man, that these kids weren't working all night skates at 7, 6, 7, 8 years old. You know, we're working all night skates, and all night skate is like on Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and a couple other days during the year. There would be these times where my dad would say, we're gonna have an all night skate. And it was a 24-hour skate where the skating rink would open up at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and it would shut down 11 o'clock the next day. And we would be working that all day, and I'm a young kid. And I worked the skating rink and a bar, you know, every single night pretty much. And then the bar would shut down at 4 o'clock a.m. And I would arrive at school the times we went, you know, if it wasn't too late, you know, for me to get to school. And I'd get to school and I'd just be passed out. And all these other kids were playing in the playground and all this other crap. I'd be in the corner just knocked out. And I started realizing through talking to friends, man, you know, they weren't doing this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I realized, man, my dad was a sadistic man to have me out here doing this at such a young age, and how he treated my mom and my brother and myself was just another level. So it was called Brazil, Indiana. And Brazil, Indiana was near a town called Center Point, Indiana. So Center Point, Indiana was a hub of KKK. In 1995, Center Point, Indiana, that hub came down to Brazil, Indiana, which is about 12 miles away, 12 minutes away from Brazil, Indiana. And they marched in a 4th of July parade in 1995. So what it was like for me, so having that messed up foundation from Buffalo that I had, my mom going through crap, we lived in a $7 a month place for several years. She was working 3 jobs. So not having a really stable foundation, dealing with being one of the only black kids in this small town, it was rough. And not only that, I had a learning disability. I stuttered, patches of hair falling out, white splotches on my skin, so I looked like a daggone leopard, you know, going through school, being the only black kid looked like a leopard stuttering, you know, and I was not only the only black kid, but I was the dumbest kid in school. And I had toxic stress. I suffered from so many different issues that I tried to hide, that it just was, it was overwhelming for me at times, overwhelming. So I developed a great skill in cheating and a great skill in lying, because of all my insecurities. So it was a hard road to hoe, man.
You know what? Being accepted is one thing that killed me. And you have to learn, what do you want in your life? We have so much influence coming at us that we are so lost. We don't know what we want to do because we don't spend enough time with ourselves. You have to learn to shut off a phone, shut off a computer, shut off a TV. And it's okay to sit in a room by yourself in a chair and just think about you, where I want to be, where do I see myself tomorrow, the next year from that. And it takes a lot of self-discipline to be able to do that nowadays, because you want to be so attached to everything. You want to be so caught up with the world. The world's moving too fast. The world's moving so fast that you're trying to keep up to the point where you lose yourself in the world. So you have to take that time and go to that dark place in your mind and discover who you are. Well, now there are really no small victories now for me, because what happens is once you transform yourself, and even though I'm not running from myself, I'm constantly facing myself. I'm constantly battling myself. I'm not running from them anymore. I used to, but now I'm constantly battling them. So now what happens is, once you get to a point in your life where you're able to be on a podcast or be on a TV show and tell everybody how fucked up you are, I will answer any question you want about me. Anything I did, anything bad, good, ugly, I will tell you. When you get to that point in your life, that's where your real journey begins. And you no longer have to have a small victory to keep you going. You now realize what your purpose in life is. And you realize all this is just part of it. But at first, you need all these different tactics to keep you going, because you haven't figured it out yet. Once you figure out that you're in a race amongst billions of people that live in this world, you're in a race by yourself. You have a purpose, and it's your purpose, not everybody else's purpose. It is your purpose and only your purpose, and it's your race. So then you're like, hey man, I'm doing my thing. I'm doing it to the best of my ability. What's next? There's no longer these small increments to get through life. Because once you figure out why you're here, it just becomes a process.
I walked back in the office and he goes, "Hey, I'm glad you're back in the training, man. You're a hard dude." There weren't hardly any blacks in the whole, I was the only black in the program. I knew that I was gonna be good for the program, stuff like that. And he was talking about that. And he said, "But you gotta start back from day one." And when I heard that, my mind wasn't strong enough to handle that. So I went back to my old ways and I said, "I gotta get out of here, man. I can't even imagine doing this again for another, it's a 10-week program." I was like, I can't do this. So I went back to my lying ways and I sat there in front of that man and I said, "Hey, Sergeant Lundberg, the doc wasn't for sure about what was going on. He talked about sudden death, talked about stroke, talked about heart attack due to sickle cell, and they're putting me back into training, and I don't feel real comfortable with any of this." I made him believe me, and he got me out of training on a medical. And versus me quitting, on my record at pararescue training, it says I got kicked out of pararescue for a medical. And I knew that I lied. I knew that it was because of the water. I couldn't see myself going back to that training for another 10 weeks, going through all that water confidence and going back to the pool every single day. It's called the Cone Dome. Couldn't go back to the Cone Dome for 10 weeks and, get put in that water to be uncomfortable. I have a way with visualizing. I have a way of visualizing and talking to myself and finding great strength in great misery. And it's those people who are able to be in the sewer. It's very easy to be motivated on those good days of life. It's that cat who can be at the bottom of the sewer, who can find great motivation alone. There's no coach, there's no trainer, there's no nothing. There's no mom, dad, sister, cousin, brother, wife, husband. It's you and you alone in the worst possible spot of your life. If you can find drive, determination, motivation in those times alone, you figured it out. And we have it all in our minds. It's how you talk to yourself and how you visualize coming out of it. It's how you see yourself in the dungeon of life. Many of us can't find strength there, but there's so much strength in the dungeon because so many people just stay there. It's that who's willing to come out of it that becomes glorious at the end of it all. I believe all of us humans have an equation like, pi is 3.14. That's how you solve for that equation. Every human being has a different equation. And there's not like some cookie cutter book of, hey, read this book and you'll be fixed. No, you gotta figure out your own personal equation. And once you figure out that equation, you now become a mathematical genius about yourself. And that's what this book does. It makes you a genius about who you are. And then from there, once you realize 3.14 is pi, you can solve any equation in the world. That's what it's about.